She was on her knees before him, not in prayer, not in submission, in something far more dangerous. Her hands rested on his thighs, steady, deliberate. Her black veil pooled around her shoulders like spilled ink, and her eyes, those soft, holy eyes, looked up at him with something that had nothing to do with God. "Forgive me," she breathed. He stared down at her, jaw tight, chest heaving under blood-stained bandages. His fingers trembled at his sides, like he was fighting every instinct not to touch her. "For what?" She rose slowly, her body pressed against his. Her lips brushed his ear. "For what I'm about to do." His breath caught. Her hand slid up his chest, over his heart. She felt it racing, pounding against her palm like a caged animal. And then she kissed him, hard, forbidden, unholy, a kiss that shattered 28 years of devotion in a single breath. When she pulled back, his eyes were dark, hungry, broken. "Angel," he whispered, "what have you done?" "I chose you," she breathed. "Over everything." A gunshot exploded through the window. She screamed. He grabbed her, shielded her. Blood bloomed fresh across his bandages, and somewhere in the chaos, somewhere between the shattering glass and the shouting voices, she realized the truth. She hadn't just fallen in love with a man. She had fallen in love with a war. And wars don't end with kisses. They end with graves. You're probably wondering how a nun ended up seducing a mafia boss. The truth? She didn't seduce him. She destroyed him. And he let her. Before we dive into this twisted love story, do me a favour. If you love dark romance, forbidden passion, and stories that make your heart race, smash that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you're going to need part 2 after this ending. Now, let's rewind. Let's go back to the night everything changed. The night she opened the wrong door and let the devil in. This is the story of a man who sold his soul and a woman who tried to save it. But some souls don't want to be saved. In 7 minutes, Sung Jin Woo would collapse at the feet of a nun. In 7 hours, she would commit her first sin for him. And in 7 days, one of them would be dead. But right now, he just needs to survive the next bullet. The shot tears through his shoulder before he hears the gunfire. He spins, crashes against the stack of crates, blood mixing with rain on the cold warehouse concrete. 4 attackers, maybe 5. Shadows moving through the shattered windows, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness like angry stars. His men were supposed to be here 30 minutes ago. No one came. Someone betrayed him. Someone who knew his roots, his weaknesses, his schedule. Someone close enough to know exactly where he'd be tonight and exactly how to end him. Jin Woo fires back. Twice. A body drops with a heavy thud. He reloads with shaking hands, blood making the metal slippery. But there's a truth settling into his bones, cold as the rain hammering against his skin. He might die here. And the strange thing, the thing that almost makes him laugh, he's not afraid of death. He's never been afraid of death. He's afraid of dying before he finds out who sold him. A bullet slices past his ear. He ducks, fires again, and another body hits the ground. But there are more coming. Footsteps splashing through puddles. Voices shouting orders. They're surrounding him. Escape. That's all that matters now. He pushes off the crates, staggering toward the rear exit. A bullet grazes his side, burning a line of fire across his ribs. Another takes his balance. He hits the ground hard, tasting iron, tasting failure. "Finish him!" someone shouts. He forces himself up. His legs tremble. His hand slips in his own blood. But he moves, because moving is the only thing keeping him alive. He crashes through the back door into the freezing soul night. The rain is relentless, blinding, soaking through what's left of his torn shirt. He stumbles down a hill through overgrown weeds that slash at his legs, headlights sweeping behind him like searchlights hunting prey. They're coming. They would always be coming. And then he sees it. A cross, faint gold against the storm. A building, small, quiet, tucked behind a wall of trees like it was hiding from the world. A convent. Jinwoo laughs. The sound comes out wet, bitter, broken. "Of all the places to die," he mutters. He reaches the door. His knees buckle. His body slumps against the wooden frame, leaving a dark smear of blood across the grain. His vision blurs, darkens at the edges, and the last thing he sees before unconsciousness claims him is her. She shouldn't have opened that door. Sister Amara Nwosu had rules, simple ones. Do not get involved in things beyond the convent walls. Do not ask questions about the violence lurking in soul's shadows. Do not touch the darkness that sometimes crept too close. But when she heard the thump against the door, when she opened it and saw the man crumpled on the doorstep, tall, early 30s, more blood than skin showing, rain plastering black hair to his forehead, she broke every rule she had. "My God," she whispered. "Someone help me." "No!" His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with surprising strength for a dying man. His eyes snapped open, dark, sharp, burning with something she couldn't name. "No one else!" She looked into those eyes. Pain. Yes. Exhaustion. But underneath that, defiance. Like he was daring death itself to take him. "You need a hospital," she said firmly. "I need silence. You'll bleed to death." "Then let me bleed." His grip loosened. His eyes rolled back. He passed out cold on her doorstep. And Amara, against every instinct, every teaching, every sacred vow she had ever made, dragged him inside. The wounds were worse than she thought. She laid him on the small bed in her healing room, a space meant for minor ailments, headaches and fevers. Not this. Not bullet wounds. Not stab marks. Not whatever nightmare had chewed this man up and spit him out. 2 gunshot grazes across his torso. A deep stab wound at his ribs, still oozing. Stitches that had been torn open. Old ones. Half-healed. And underneath it all, a map of scars. Across his chest. Down his arms. A long, brutal line across his ribs that looked years old. This wasn't a man who had one bad night. This was a man who had lived through wars. Her hands moved quickly, cutting away the blood-soaked fabric of his shirt, cleaning wounds, preparing thread for stitches. But every few seconds, her eyes flicked to the window, where rain streaked down the glass and darkness pressed against the convent walls. On the bedside table, his phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. 12 missed calls, all from the same name, Han Seorin. She looked at him, unconscious, bleeding, dangerous. "Who are you?" She didn't ask out loud, but the question wouldn't leave her mind. Men like this didn't stumble into convents by accident. Men with these kinds of wounds didn't come from business meetings or car accidents, or any of the normal tragedies that brought people to their knees. She should call the police. She should wake the other sisters. She should do anything except sit here alone with a stranger whose blood was staining her clean white sheets. But something stopped her, something in his face, even unconscious, even broken, that looked almost peaceful, like this was the first safe place he'd found in a very long time. She threaded her needle, and she got to work. "You're still here." His voice was a rasp, low and rough, and it startled her so badly she nearly dropped the suture needle. She hadn't realised he was awake. "I'm treating your wounds," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Why?" "Because I couldn't watch you die on my doorstep. Maybe I deserved it." She paused, needle suspended above his skin. "No one deserves to die alone." He looked at her then, really looked. His eyes moved over her face, her dark skin, the simple black veil framing her features, the calm determination she was fighting to maintain. "What's your name?" she asked softly, returning to her work. "Jin-woo." "And how did you get these scars, Jin-woo?" "There are at least a dozen." He watched her work, this woman in black cloth with gentle hands and steel in her spine. Bad decisions, all of them, every single one. She tied off a stitch, snipped the thread, and moved to the next wound. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the rain and his ragged breathing. "You're a nun," he said finally. "Yes." A pause. Something flickered across his face, almost like disappointment. "That's unfortunate." "Why?" "Because I don't trust people." His voice cracked on the words, like they cost him something to say. "But I trust you, and that makes you dangerous." She paused again, looked at him. "I think you have that backwards." "No, Angel, I don't." "Angel." The word slid down her spine, warm and unsettling. She ignored it, focused on the wound near his ribs. "Don't call me that." "Why not?" "Because I'm not an angel. I'm just a woman who opened the wrong door." He almost smiled. "Then we have something in common." "What's that?" "We both make bad decisions." Outside, a car engine rumbled in the distance. Amara's hands froze. Jinwoo's eyes sharpened. "They're looking for me." "Who?" "People who want me dead." The engine faded, passed, kept going. She exhaled slowly. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. "Really?" He held her gaze, steady, unapologetic. "The kind of man you should have left on the doorstep." "That doesn't answer my question." "It's the only answer I have right now." She should have pressed harder, should have demanded the truth. But there was something in his eyes, beneath the danger, beneath the walls, that looked almost human, almost lost. "Rest," she said finally. "You've lost too much blood to be having conversations." "Stay!" The word stopped her. "Jin-woo!" "Just until I fall asleep." She should have said no, should have walked out of that room and locked the door behind her. But she stayed, and when his breathing finally evened out, when his hand relaxed against the sheets, she found herself watching him sleep like he was something precious, something dangerous, something she was already starting to care about far more than she should. She had no idea who he was, but she knew one thing. Her life had just changed tonight, and she wasn't sure it could change back. She didn't leave his side. She should have. The other sisters were asleep. Morning prayers were in 4 hours, and yet she stayed. His hand was still wrapped loosely around her wrist. Even unconscious, even half dead, he wouldn't let go, like she was an anchor, like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. And God forgive her. She didn't want him to let go either. Morning came with chaos. The sound woke her first. Engines, then boots on gravel, then voices. Harsh, commanding, wrong. Amara's eyes snapped open. Jinwoo was already standing by the window, shirtless, bandaged, a gun she hadn't seen before clutched in his hand. Where he'd hidden it, she didn't know. How he was even standing, she couldn't imagine. "They found me," he said. "How?" He turned. His jaw was tight. His eyes were cold. "Doesn't matter how. Only who?" A fist slammed against the front door of the convent. Once, twice, 3 times. The wood rattled in its frame. "Sung Jin Woo! Come out, or everyone dies!" Amara's blood ran cold. "They wouldn't," she whispered. "This is sacred ground. Angel." His voice was soft, almost tender. "Sacred means nothing to men like me." 4 black cars filled the courtyard. Men in suits, tall, stern, armed, were already spreading out, checking windows, circling the building. Not police. Much worse. Sister Clementina appeared in the doorway, her face pale with fear. "Sister Amara, there are men." She stopped, saw Jinwoo, saw the gun. Her expression shifted from fear to horror. "What have you done?" "I'll explain later," Amara said quickly. "Tell the others to stay hidden. Don't open the gates." "They will kill you," Clementina whispered. "Child, what has this man done to you?" Amara's breath trembled. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know. You're inviting death into sacred ground. She's saving my life." Jinwoo cut in coldly. "Again." Clementina stared at him with open contempt, but Amara grabbed her arm. "Please, trust me. Just this once." A long pause stretched between them. Then Clementina stepped aside. "God protect you both," she muttered. "Because I cannot." Amara grabbed Jinwoo's hand. "Follow me. You're risking everything for me," he said, voice low, searching her face. "Why?" "Because something in your eyes last night told me you weren't just a criminal." "I am a criminal." "Then you're a criminal I'm choosing to save. Now move." She helped him through the back corridor, supporting his weight as best she could. He was burning with fever, trembling, his breath shallow, but his eyes remained sharp, scanning every shadow, calculating every threat. They reached the small garden path when Jinwoo stopped abruptly. "Wait," he whispered. Amara froze. "What?" He pointed to the hedge. A gun barrel peeked through the leaves. Jinwoo didn't hesitate. He yanked Amara down just as the shot rang out. The bullet embedded into the brick wall inches from where her head had been. "Move!" he hissed. They ran, ducked low, weaving between garden statues and stone benches. Jinwoo was slow, too slow. His grip on her shoulder tightened with every step, like he was holding himself together by sheer willpower. Another shot. Another. Sparks burst from the stone walkway. Amara pulled him behind, a thick statue of St. Anthony. Jinwoo slid down the base, chest heaving, fresh blood seeping through his bandages. "They found the escape route," he muttered. "Smart. The men outside, those are your enemies. But this one here, loyal to the traitor, he won't miss twice." Amara peeked through a crack in the statue. The shooter was reloading. She had seconds, maybe less. She looked at Jinwoo's pistol lying holstered at his thigh. She had never held a gun before, never even touched one. Every part of her faith screamed against it. But faith wasn't going to save him. She was. She grabbed the gun. It was heavier than she expected, cold and foreign in her hands. Amara, don't! She didn't listen. She stepped out from behind the statue, raised the weapon, aimed at nothing because she had no idea what she was doing, and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the courtyard. Silence. Then a body hit the ground. Jin-woo stared at her, genuinely, completely stunned. You shot him. I didn't mean to kill him. You didn't. You hit his shoulder. Terrible aim. I was aiming for his leg. You almost took his face off. She stared at the gun in her trembling hands. The weight of it. The reality of what she'd just done. Oh God. Yeah. Jin-woo hauled himself to his feet, pain flashing across his features. Welcome to my world, Angel. A shout came from the main gate. We heard the shot. Spread out. They were running out of time. Amara grabbed his arm. There's a service gate behind the orchard. We can reach it before they circle around. How do you know escape routes? I grew up knowing danger. You learn to survive it. He looked at her with something like admiration. I think you might be dangerous. Not as dangerous as you. We're working on that. They sprinted across the orchard, or something close to sprinting. Jin-woo was flagging badly, each step costing him more than the last, but he kept moving, kept pushing, kept refusing to die. The service gate was small, rusty, nearly invisible behind a pile of old bricks. Amara shoved it open and dragged Jin-woo through. They stumbled into the narrow alley separating the convent from the next building, rain immediately soaking them again. Jin-woo leaned heavily against the wall, panting. I won't make it far. Yes, you will. You don't know that. I know I'm not letting you die in an alley. His eyes closed briefly. Why do you believe in me so much? Someone has to. This will get you killed, Amara. I know. He looked at her then, really looked. Rain dripping from his lashes, sweat glistening on his forehead, blood staining his bandages, but in his eyes burned something new, something fierce and protective and terrifying. You're out of your mind, he whispered. So are you. He almost smiled, weakly, painfully, but it reached his eyes. Good. At least we match. She tugged him forward. They had to keep moving. The alley ended at a sloping hill. Jin-woo stopped suddenly. Car, he muttered. Amara froze. A sleek black BMW was parked at the bottom of the slope, waiting like it knew they were coming. That's not theirs, Jin-woo said. That's mine. Yours. Emergency tracking. It finds me when I can't find it. You have a self-driving emergency getaway car? Angel, I run the biggest syndicate in Seoul. I have everything. He nearly collapsed halfway down the hill. Amara hauled him with all her strength until they reached the vehicle. The moment her hand touched the door handle, it unlocked automatically. Inside, Jin-woo sank into the passenger seat, barely conscious. Drive! He rasped. I don't know the city. GPS is locked. Just go. Anywhere but here. She didn't hesitate. She threw the car into gear and pressed the accelerator, just as armed men burst from the alley behind them. Guns raised, shouts echoing. Amara didn't look back. The tyres screeched across the wet street, and they vanished into the Seoul night. For 10 minutes, the sounds of pursuit faded behind them. The city blurred past, Neon signs reflecting off rain-soaked streets, the smell of smoke and fried street food drifting through the vents. Only then did Amara breathe again. Jinwoo was slumped against the seat, sweating, trembling, his bandages slowly turning crimson. "You're bleeding again," she said. "Noticed," he muttered. "I've been shot twice, stabbed once, and thrown off a cliff tonight." "You were thrown off a cliff?" "Long story. Tell me, can I not? You owe me at least explanations." He turned his head slowly toward her. His eyes were heavy, but something intense burned beneath the exhaustion. "I owe you my life." The words hit her harder than any gunfire. She couldn't look at him. Not when her cheeks felt warm. Not when her heart was beating too loudly in her chest. Not when everything about this situation screamed danger, and she couldn't bring herself to care. "Where do we go?" she asked. Voice, carefully neutral. "Somewhere safe. You own safe places. I own soul. You own a lot of things." He was quiet for a moment, then low and rough. "Not the one thing I want right now." Her hands tightened on the wheel. "Jinwoo! Drive, Angel. Before I say something we'll both regret." She pressed the accelerator harder. Finally, Jinwoo pointed weakly. "Turn here." She turned. Ahead stood an old, abandoned temple nestled between modern apartment buildings. Its roof was broken, pillars cracked with age, but the courtyard had been converted into a hidden parking space. "Here?" she asked. "One of my hideouts." "You hide in temples." "I appreciate irony." She guided the car to a stop. Inside, the temple was dusty and forgotten. Stacks of old incense, faded Buddha statues, broken prayer beads scattered across the floor. But in the centre of it all sat a single modern bed, completely out of place. "Really?" she asked. "It's comfortable. It's strange. It's safe." She sighed and helped him onto the bed. He groaned as his weight settled, fresh pain flashing across his features. "I swear," he muttered, "if I survive this, I am killing whoever betrayed me. Revenge isn't a solution. It's my solution." She shook her head and reached for his jacket. "Let me see the wound." "You should quit being a nun. You're too good at patching up criminals." "This isn't funny. It's hilarious when I'm delirious. Take off your shirt." "I would, but I might pass out." She rolled her eyes and helped him out of it, peeling away the blood-soaked fabric as gently as she could. The bandages underneath were ruined. She carefully removed them. The stab wound had reopened completely. Blood trickled slowly but steadily. "You need real medical care," she whispered, voice trembling despite herself. "No hospitals. They'll find me." "Then what do I do?" "Stay." Her breath caught. "Jinwoo, please." The word cracked, broke in the middle like something fragile. She realised in that moment that this man had probably never begged for anything in his entire life. Not once. Not ever. Until now. She dipped a cloth in warm water and began gently cleaning the wound. He watched her silently, too silently. His gaze moved from her hands to her face, lingering on her lips, her eyes, the curve of her cheek. She felt it, felt the weight of his attention, like something physical. "Are you always this gentle?" he murmured. "Yes, it's distracting. Focus on your breathing. It's still distracting, Angel." She swallowed hard and continued treating him. Their faces were inches apart now. His breath brushed her cheek. Her fingers grazed his skin, and she felt him shiver. Not from cold. Her pulse wouldn't slow down. He lifted a hand suddenly and brushed her wrist with his thumb. You're trembling. So are you. He almost smiled. I'm half dead. And I'm half. She stopped. Half what? He whispered. She couldn't say it, could barely think it. The words sat on her tongue like a confession she wasn't ready to make. He tilted her chin up gently, so gently, like she was something precious, something breakable. Half what, Angel? Her lips parted. A loud buzzing shattered the moment. Jinwoo's phone vibrated violently on the table beside them. The screen lit up with a name. Han Seo-rin. He stiffened. His expression went cold. Your fiancé, Amara said quietly. You saw the name earlier. 12 missed calls. She pulled back slowly, putting distance between them. You're engaged. It's complicated. No, it's not. Engagement isn't complicated. It is when it's arranged, he snapped. When it's politics. When it's a contract signed in blood, not love. Arranged or not, you belong to someone. No. His eyes flashed, dark and fierce. I belong to no one. The phone kept buzzing. Answer it, Amara whispered. His jaw clenched. He picked up the phone. Han Seo-rin's voice was ice, cold and sharp and perfectly controlled. Jinwoo, you're making this very difficult. So it was you, not me, but you left me no choice. A pause. You're engaged to me, yet you disappear with some foreign woman. A nun, no less. She laughed. The sound was cruel. Your taste in women has certainly evolved. Amara's stomach twisted painfully. Jinwoo's voice dropped to a dangerous register. If you touch her, please. Seo-rin interrupted smoothly. I don't need to dirty my hands. Others will. Your enemies are coming, Jinwoo. And when they find you, and they will find you, she dies first. Slowly, while you watch. Amara flinched. Jinwoo stood up abruptly, ignoring the pain that flashed across his features. If you come after her, I will burn everything you love to the ground. Every business, every alliance, every person who ever smiled in your direction. I will make you watch it all turn to ash. How romantic, Seo-rin mocked. Threatening me for a woman you've known less than a day. Tell me, does she know what you really are? Does she know the things you've done? The people you've killed? Another cruel laugh. You're bleeding to death in an abandoned temple with a girl who thinks she can save your soul. How pathetic. The call ended. Silence filled the room like something heavy. Amara whispered, so this is what you meant. Your enemies want to kill you. And me. Yes. And your fiancé wants me dead. Yes. And I'm trapped with you. A long pause. Yes. Jinwoo. She shook her head. This is insane. He stepped closer. I know. You're dangerous. I know. You ruin everything you touch. I know. Then why am I still here? She asked, voice shaking. He cupped her face gently, far too gently for a man like him. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. Because you're the only good thing I've ever touched, he whispered, and didn't want to let go. Amara's breath caught. His forehead leaned against hers. Close. Too close. Every rule she'd ever followed screamed at her to pull away. She didn't. Angel, he breathed, forgive me for wanting you. Her hands trembled against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat beneath her palms, racing, unsteady, human. "This isn't right," she whispered. "No," he agreed. "But nothing about us is." Their lips were inches apart. Thunder boomed outside. A gunshot shattered the window. Jin-woo grabbed her and threw them both behind a stone pillar. Glass rained down around them. Cold air rushed in. "Get down," he growled. Shadows moved outside. Flashlight beams swept through the broken window. Voices. At least 6, maybe more. Jin-woo pulled out a small handgun he'd hidden under the mattress and checked the magazine. "We're surrounded," he said quietly. "What do we do?" "You run." "No." "Amara." I said, "No." She grabbed his arm, her grip fierce. "I'm not leaving you." His expression cracked, just for a moment, just long enough for her to see something raw beneath the surface. "You're going to get yourself killed," he breathed. "So will you," she countered. "At least, let me die trying to help." The door exploded inward. Amara screamed. Jin-woo shoved her behind him and fired at the first man through the doorway. The shot caught him in the chest. He dropped. Gunfire erupted everywhere. Shards of wood, dust, smoke filling the air. "Stay behind me!" Jin-woo shouted. "I can't just hide." "Yes, you can." 2 more armed men charged through the door. Jin-woo shot one. The other raised his weapon, finger on the trigger. "Amara, run!" But instead of running, she grabbed a heavy Buddha statue from the floor and swung it with all her strength. It connected with the attacker's skull with a sickening crack. He collapsed. Jin-woo stared at her. "Angel!" She was panting, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Don't say a word." He almost smiled despite everything. "Remind me never to make you angry." The moment of levity vanished as more footsteps echoed outside. More shouting. More guns. Jin-woo staggered. He was losing too much blood. His face had gone pale, his movements sluggish. "Jin-woo!" Her voice broke. "You can't fight anymore. Please. We have to escape." His eyes glazed. "I can't. I'm done." "No." She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "Look at me." He did. "Jin-woo, stay alive. Not for revenge. Not for your empire. For me." His breath hitched. More men stormed inside. Jin-woo pulled Amara close, shielding her with his body. His arms wrapped around her like a barrier against the world. "I'll get you out," he whispered against her hair. "How?" He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back door. Gunfire exploded around them. Bullets sparked off stone. They crashed through the exit just as the door frame behind them shattered. Rain drenched them instantly. Jin-woo stumbled, nearly fell. Amara hauled him upright with strength she didn't know she had. "Where?" she cried. "Street! Down the stairs!" But as they reached the bottom of the stone steps, a black car skidded to a stop in front of them. The doors flew open. Han Seorin stepped out. Perfect hair despite the rain. Perfect makeup. Perfect designer clothes. She looked like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover, not like she'd orchestrated a massacre. Her eyes landed on Amara with cold disdain. "So you're the nun." Amara stepped in front of Jin-woo instinctively. Her whole body was shaking, but she didn't move. Seorin smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. How noble, how utterly pathetic. "Stay back," Amara warned. Her voice trembled, but didn't break. "Or what?" Seorin taunted. You'll pray at me. Jinwoo pushed past Amara and stood in front of her, unsteady but defiant. Touch her, he growled, and I will bury your entire clan. Oh, darling, Seorin purred. You won't live long enough to try. She lifted her hand. Gunmen raised their weapons. 12 of them, maybe more. Red laser sights danced across Jinwoo's chest, across Amara's heart. Amara's breath stopped. This was it. This was how it ended. Jinwoo grabbed her hand. Squeeze tight. Angel, he whispered, voice cracking on the word. She turned to look at him. Rain ran down his face. Or maybe tears. She couldn't tell any more. Don't, she breathed. Don't say goodbye. I'm not. He pressed his forehead against hers. One last time. I'm saying, I love you. The words stopped her heart. Because she knew them, felt them, had been fighting them since the moment she opened that door and saw him bleeding on her doorstep. She grabbed his face with both hands. Jinwoo! He kissed her, hard, desperate, forbidden. A kiss that shattered every vow she had ever made, every promise, every prayer. In that moment there was only him, only the taste of rain and blood, and something she had never allowed herself to want. A kiss that destroyed her, and saved her, and damned them both. Seorin's voice cut through the rain like a blade. Fire! Gunfire erupted. Everything went black. Then, silence. Complete and total silence. And somewhere in the darkness, a single heartbeat. Faint. Barely there, but alive. They both survived that night, but only one of them walked away. If you want to know what happened next, who survived, who fell, and what Amara did when she woke up alone in a hospital bed with blood on her hands and a ring she didn't recognise on her finger, make sure you subscribe right now, like this video, and comment part 2 so I know you're ready for the next chapter, because this story is far from over, and the truth about that night, it's worse than you can imagine.